Tonight, as more than 1 million survivors of the cyclone wait desperately for help, Myanmar's government finally agrees to accept U.S. aid, just one plane load. I'm Harry Smith. Also tonight, it was the one advantage Hillary Clinton still had, but not anymore. Barack Obama closes the gap in the battle for superdelegates. And you can take it with you. Unused campaign cash. Wait till you see what a retired senator is doing with his. We'll follow the money. Plus, what's wrong with this picture? Absolutely nothing. A canine-feline connection in Steve Hartman's Assignment America.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
Good evening. Katie is on assignment. It is a race against time to get help to the victims of the cyclone in Myanmar. And the military government there is not making it easy, blocking aid from the outside, seeming not to care about the many suffering and near death. The Red Cross says nearly 2 million are homeless, injured, or without food and water. So far, help has only reached 1 out of 10 people who need it. A Burmese exile group says the delays are costing thousands of lives each day. And though the regime is again allowing some relief flights to land, it will not let foreign aid workers in. CBS News reporter Celia Hatton is in neighboring Thailand with the latest.
6 days after the devastating cyclone, survivors of the storm are barely hanging on. Some meager aid is on the way. The United States has finally received permission from Myanmar's military regime to deliver relief, but it's just one plane load of supplies due to arrive Monday. As the United States makes slow progress, the role of one major aid organization is in question tonight. The World Food Program says officials in Myanmar's capital have seized relief supplies, including high-energy biscuits meant for the hungry.
We are very concerned about 38 tons of our food that is in Yangon and has not been released for use by the World Food Program.
Myanmar's government admitted taking the aid, arguing they will decide how it is doled out. The need for that help is growing by the hour, according to eyewitnesses in the worst-hit areas of the country.
In the town, the buildings are mostly destroyed. The town wasn't affected by flooding, it's on slightly higher ground, but all of the neighboring villages were washed away. Most of them, more than half the people there died. In some of the villages, almost all of the people there died.
When aid is allowed to flow into Myanmar, there's a wealth of donations just waiting to be spent. Over $25 million so far. But that's just a fraction of what the region needs to recover, to buy everything from medicine to mosquito nets.
The aid being provided by Myanmar's regime is inept at best, criminal at worst. Prime Minister Thein Sein's idea of relief was to donate 20 televisions and 10 DVD players to victims of the disaster, the majority of whom haven't had electricity since the storm struck.
You okay with trucking capacity?
Outside the country, hundreds of relief workers are anxiously marking time, waiting for visas that will allow them into the disaster zone. The wait stretching even longer in Bangkok. The Myanmar embassy closed for a holiday on Friday. Another illustration of just how little officials care for international help. They just wanted our camera to move on. Exiled Burmese activist Zo Amin believes the government's in over its head.
They don't know how to handle this problem, so there will be more dead people.
Almost a week out, and despite the best efforts of the international community, the regime has won a few more days of isolation, but at the cost of countless victims. Celia Hatton, CBS News, Bangkok.
Here at home, the battle for the Democratic presidential nomination continues. Barack Obama campaigned today in Oregon, so did Hillary Clinton. That primary is the week after next, with 52 delegates at stake. In the competition for superdelegates, Hillary Clinton once had a commanding lead, but Barack Obama has closed the gap. Since Super Tuesday 3 months ago, Obama has picked up more than twice as many superdelegates as Clinton. Jeff Greenfield is our senior political correspondent. He joins us this evening. This was her most important claim to being able to stay in this race. Now what?
Well, she was hoping to win primary after primary, convince these superdelegates that she was the stronger candidate. After Indiana and North Carolina, that steady stream toward Obama is beginning to look a little bit more like a flood. And without the superdelegates moving to her side, the math just is not for her.
Right. Is there any way she stays in? Is there any way she can hang on? Is there any road to a victory for her?
Win about 90% of the vote in every primary and hope for really bad news about Obama, Harry. That's about it.
What about Barack Obama, though? What problem may still be left for him?
It's curious to me that since the dawn of the primaries in 1968, no nominee has ever been nominated by either party having lost this many big state primaries. And the argument Clinton is still making is, look, where we have to win, he's weak, and he's going to have to prove himself, probably starting in June, that he can do well or convince those voters that he's really on their side.
All right, Jeff Greenfield, thanks so much. In North Carolina today, they are picking up the pieces after severe weather swept through the state. A tornado left 1 dead and several injured. In Alabama, meanwhile, well, you have to see it to believe it. Surveillance video captured these pictures of high winds, possibly a twister, whipping through a parking lot, tossing cars around like toys. Strong winds also flipped a mobile home. No injuries were reported. On the CBS News Money Watch, the rising price of oil. Oil prices reached $126 a barrel today for the first time ever, before closing just 4 cents short of that. And gasoline is up another 2 cents today, now selling for a nationwide average $3.67 a gallon. That's an all-time high. As gas continues to rise, Sandra Hughes reports America's love affair with SUVs may be ending.
At Ivan Hoyo's used car lot in Miami, SUV trade-ins are not welcome. It's a rule he instituted after he watched sales of the gas guzzlers screech to a halt.
The reality is your gas bill is going to be higher than your car payment, and that doesn't make much sense in anybody's mind.
Hoyo sees customers every day desperate to unload anything that isn't fuel efficient.
What's the reason you want to get rid of it? Is there
Much
anything?
fuel. Experts say if you're getting rid of an SUV, don't set your sights on trade-in guides like Kelley Blue Book. Prices are falling too fast for guidebooks to keep pace.
I think most people trying to trade in a larger SUV or a gas guzzling vehicle are going to be disappointed in what they're going to be offered in relation to whatever value they're looking at.
And new SUV sales are suffering too, down more than 25% this year. Full-size pickup truck sales dropped 15%.
Forget bigger is better. It's now, honey, I shrunk the car. Last month, 1 in 5 cars sold in the U.S. was a subcompact or compact.
At this Toyota dealership in Hollywood, California, the star of the lot is a tiny car called the Yaris. Nationwide sales shot up 46% in 1 year.
And the car gets 29, to 35 miles a gallon. And the price is right.
Other fuel-efficient subcompacts like the Honda Fit had a record April. Sales up 54%. Ford Focus sales were up 32%. Back on his Florida car lot, Ivan Hoyos did take one used SUV from someone who downsized.
This is my mother's SUV. We've had it on the lot for approximately 1 month now.
At least he won't have to gas it up. Not one customer has asked for a test drive. Sandra Hughes, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Scientists are really beginning to worry about a volcano that's erupting in Chile. It sent a towering plume of ash skyward. It reached a height of 7.5 miles today, and authorities are concerned that lava could overwhelm the surrounding area in the coming weeks. Thousands have fled their homes, and evacuations are now mandatory within a 30-mile radius of the mountain. Gun battles in the streets of Beirut, Lebanon tapered off tonight, but not before Shiite Hezbollah fighters flexed their muscles and took control of key parts of the capital from Sunnis allied with the government. At least 14 people have been killed in 3 days of fighting, which some fear could lead to a new civil war in Lebanon. The Bush administration accuses Iran and Syria of inciting the violence by backing Hezbollah. Still ahead on the CBS Evening News, Katie Couric with Senator McCain's mother.
You don't like when your son's age is brought up, do you?
But up next, capital gains. What can ex-senators do with all that leftover campaign cash? We will follow the money. Everyone knows a dollar doesn't go as far as it used to, except maybe in Washington. Some former members of Congress are reaping their own kind of capital gains and using unspent campaign funds in surprising ways. Cheryl Atkinson follows the money.
He did everything from lead the Senate to sing in a group called the Vocal Majority. Then last fall, after 35 years in Congress, Republican Trent Lott made a surprise announcement. He was quitting.
Trish and I have decided it's time for us to do something else.
Something else turned out to be lobbying. Lott joined up with another former senator, Democrat John Breaux, to open their own firm in this Washington, D.C. office building. Ex-members of Congress can double their earnings as lobbyists, paid by special interests to directly influence their former colleagues. And guess what those former members of Congress can take with them to their big lobby jobs? Leftover campaign funds, unspent political donations meant for their reelection. Under ethics rules, it can't be spent for personal use, but you won't believe what ex-congressmen are allowed to do with it. Donate as lobbyists to their former colleagues. Senator Lott had a whopping $1.3 million left in his reelection fund when he quit the Senate and opened his lobby firm. One of the first big clients to jump aboard was Northrop Grumman, which is lobbying to keep a $35 billion Air Force contract for plane refuelers. Lott has dipped into his campaign chest to donate money to former colleagues who could influence the Northrop Grumman deal, including Senator Saxby Chambliss and Roger Wicker, who sit on the Senate Armed Services Committee. He's also contributed to the Senate's top Republican, Mitch McConnell. Government watchdog Sheila Krumholtz says it's perfectly legal, but shouldn't be.
Not only do they have incredible access to their former colleagues, but they can give out money to those colleagues to keep the doors open.
Krumholtz's group says more lawmakers than ever are moving through that golden revolving door from Congress to lobbyists, and then using leftover campaign funds on Capitol Hill. According to Congressional Quarterly, 195 members have crossed over to lobbying since 2005.
Is that a way of, you think, getting around election law that says they shouldn't personally benefit from these funds?
I think it is. I think it's a distinction almost without a difference.
Lott wouldn't agree to an interview, but has said he's merely donating to Republicans he believes in, not trying to win favors. Whatever the reason, with more members of Congress spinning through the revolving door, it means more leftover campaign funds converted and carried into the lobby world, Washington style. Cheryl Atkinson, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
There was a nasty accident today during practice for the Indy 500. Danica Patrick was at the wheel when her car hit a crew member in the pit. Charles Buckman, who works for another driver, tried to get out of the way as Patrick entered the pit, but he was slammed to the pavement. He was taken by ambulance to a hospital with a concussion and lacerations. Up next, John McCain and his mother talked to Katie Couric about his years as a POW.
I think that was harder in some ways on my father because he was the commander.
Every single night he prayed on his knees.
Senator John McCain took his campaign to New Jersey today. He visited a science center to talk about environmental issues, but wound up responding to a report he'd voted against George Bush in 2000. McCain flatly denied it. McCain expects his opponents to make his age an issue come fall. He'll be 72 by Election Day, but he's ready to fight back with a secret weapon. His mother, Roberta, 96 and going strong. Katie Couric talked to her and the senator.
You eloped, I understand, in Tijuana because your family didn't fully support your marriage to Senator McCain's father.
You know, I see now what it took a long time for me to figure it out, but I was so young. And of course, I was still in school. And of course, they'd objected. And my mother didn't know anything about the Navy, and I think she had a, you know, like a sailor, what a sailor has a girl in every port. I think she had heard that.
Would you mention the establishment that in Tijuana that where the marriage took place?
I'm going to kill him. It was Caesar's Bar in Tijuana. In fact, it's still going. And that's where they invented Caesar salad.
So you were a bit of a maverick. Is that where your son gets his streak?
I don't know. I was just young and stupid.
No.
But it all worked out.
Oh yes, I knew that I was terribly in love, and I knew that it would be for life, and it was.
How were you able to get through all those years when your son was in captivity?
Well, I do have faith. I have faith in God's will, and that's all I ask for.
I think that was harder in some ways on my father because he was the commander of all the U.S. forces in the Pacific. And he was ordered the bombing of the B-52s of Hanoi, and he knew that my prison camp was there. And of course he carried out those instructions and gave the orders without hesitation, but it's still pretty tough on a father.
Every single night he prayed on his knees. And I have a prayer book of his, an Episcopal prayer book, where when, you know, your hand finally will just be oil and wear the paper out, those papers were just worn out.
Let's talk about politics and this campaign. You don't like when your son's age is brought up, do you?
No, I don't mind. When you think about the experience and what he's accomplished, as opposed to a man who 2 years ago was in the state legislature in Illinois. So that is a big minus in my view.
That's why I have to take her with me wherever I go.
With someone with so little experience, and then who has the most liberal record of voting in the United States, and I'm no liberal.
You speak your mind, don't you? I know that back in January you said the Republican base was offering no help whatsoever.
That's true.
To your son. Do you think he's getting the help he needs?
I don't know. I really don't know, and I'm not equivocating. I don't know anything about it.
Do you ever say, Mom, please, zip it?
That wouldn't do him any good.
I'm just going to say, I think at 96 she probably has earned the right to express her views. In the interest of full disclosure, mention that from time to time we have spirited discussions because we don't always agree.
We know that.
What is the biggest issue of disagreement?
It's such a big issue, I'm not going to bring it up.
Really?
It'll start a fight over right now. It'll just start over.
You can't tell me?
Sometimes
no,
it's...
I don't want to fight on television.
What are the big issues?
Oh, no. Look, one thing about my mom, she really does keep up. She watches the news, she reads the newspaper, she carries them around with me. And so it's kind of issue of the day kind of thing when we discuss, what do you think about this? And philosophically, I think we're pretty well in tune.
What are you going to do for your mom for Mother's Day, Senator?
Tell her how beautiful she is.
Steve Hartman and Assignment America when we come back. Sunday is Mother's Day, so we'll end the week with Steve Hartman's nominee for Mother of the Year. Tonight's Assignment America.
You can understand why some visitors to the Burlington, Iowa Humane Society get a little freaked out. It's not every day you see a dog have a kitten for lunch.
Grab him, grab the little kitty.
And not just a kitten. This dog is about to have a whole litter of kittens for lunch.
Uh-oh.
The story of this unusual dining arrangement began a couple months ago. Lily, a mix of lab and who knows what, was found along an old farm road. She was pregnant and soon had 6 puppies who all got adopted. And everything was fine until the kittens showed up without a mother.
And we didn't know what to do. I mean, it takes a lot of effort to bottle feed all these kitties.
Teresa Kurth works for the shelter and helped come up with the solution.
You know, there's a big difference between a dog and a cat.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. So we thought, let's just try.
Try and see if Lily would have the kittens for lunch, which she did. Breakfast and dinner, too.
To see this dog just take to these baby kitties instantly, I just think Lily's one of a kind.
Yes and no. There was also the cat who heard an abandoned fawn crying for food and took in the little deerlet. Or how about the baby horse raised by a goat? And perhaps most amazing of all, the leopard, who in killing a baboon unwittingly created an orphan. The leopard could have easily made the baby an appetizer, but instead sat down beside and mothered it. Why would an animal show such grace? Why would Lily, when one of the kittens fell into her water dish, rescue the little troublemaker and carry him off to safety? Why? other than the obvious.
I mean, it's what she does.
Indeed, for most mothers, it's just what they do. An instinct so deeply wired into them that often all they know is to love and care for life. Understanding it completely will take scientists many more years, but feel free to appreciate it this weekend. Steve Hartman, CBS News, Burlington, Iowa.
That's the CBS Evening News. Katie will be back on Monday. I'm Harry Smith in New York. I'll see you next week on The Early Show. Good night.